The night the storm broke over Silver Pine Ridge, Alara promised herself she'd never look back. Wind howled against the windshield, carrying the scent of wet pine and something older, something feral. Her car headlights cut through sheets of rain as the road wound higher into the mountains. She wasn't running from a person, not exactly. She was running from a life that had caged her. A town full of whispers. A family that treated her grief like an inconvenience. And a man who had taken too much without asking. But fate, she would learn, didn't let you run very far. A flash of movement jolted her from her thoughts. A dark shape bolted across the road. Too fast, too big to be a deer. Alara slammed on the brakes. The tires screamed against the slick asphalt, and the car spun, fishtailing into the ditch. Metal crunched. The airbag exploded in her face. For a moment, there was only silence, save for the pounding rain and her own ragged breathing. Then came the sound again, a low, guttural growl from somewhere beyond the cracked windshield. Her pulse spiked. She fumbled for her flashlight, pushed open the door, and stumbled out into the downpour. Her boots sank into mud. The beam of light cut through the trees and landed on eyes. Not human, not animal. Gold, burning like molten metal. The creature stood at the edge of the road. A wolf, massive, drenched in rain, its fur a dark silver that gleamed under lightning. It wasn't just watching her. It was assessing her. Alara froze, heart hammering in her chest. "Easy," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "I'm not going to hurt you." The wolf's ears twitched. Then, impossibly, it stepped closer. A shiver ran through her. Fear. But something else, too. A pull deep in her chest she couldn't explain. The wolf lowered its head, muscles tense. Its gaze met hers, and she felt it. An invisible thread, electric, ancient, binding. The air thickened, her breath hitched. Then the pain struck. It seared down her neck like fire, a brand beneath her skin. She cried out, clutching her shoulder. The wolf let out a low, guttural sound that wasn't quite a growl, more like a command. For a heartbeat, she swore she heard a voice inside her mind. Mine. Alara stumbled backward. What did you... But the wolf had already turned and vanished into the forest, swallowed by rain and darkness. She collapsed against her car, gasping, her palm pressed to the burning mark on her skin. When she pulled her hand away, she saw faint lines beneath the surface of her flesh. A crescent shape, glowing faintly silver before fading into her skin. A mark. And somehow, she knew it wasn't just a scar. The storm raged until dawn. When she woke, the car was half buried in mud, her phone dead, and the mark on her neck cool to the touch. It could have been a dream, if not for the bruises, the tracks in the mud, and that strange sense of being watched. She gathered her things and started walking toward the nearest town, following the sound of distant water. Every gust of wind felt like it carried whispers. By the time she reached Silver Pine Hollow, a small mountain town nestled against the edge of the forest, the rain had eased, but the air was heavy, charged. Locals stared when she passed, eyes flicking toward her neck as if they saw something she didn't. She found an old inn at the town's edge and asked for a room. The innkeeper, an older woman with sharp eyes, froze when Alara brushed back her damp hair. "Child," she said softly, "where did you get that mark?" Alara frowned. "It's nothing. Just an accident." The woman's expression hardened. "Accidents don't leave a claiming mark, not unless you've crossed paths with the wolves of the ridge." Alara blinked. "Wolves?" The woman leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Not the kind you're thinking of. You'd do well to keep that covered, girl. There are eyes in these woods that never forget what's theirs." A chill ran down Alara's spine. She thanked the woman, hurried to her room, and locked the door. She sat on the bed, pulling her collar aside. The mark shimmered faintly under the lamplight, like a sliver of moonlight etched into her skin. It pulsed once, slow, steady. Somewhere deep in the forest, a wolf lifted its head and howled. Alara flinched, heart pounding. She didn't know that howl was for her. She didn't know she had already changed something she couldn't undo. And she had no idea that the one who marked her was already on his way to find her. The rain had stopped, but the storm hadn't left Alara. It echoed inside her, in the hollow ache behind her ribs, in the pulse that seemed to answer something unseen. The mark on her neck had faded to a faint shimmer, but when she touched it, warmth rippled through her veins, spreading like a secret. She told herself it was trauma. Shock. Maybe even a concussion from the crash. It had to be. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something watched her. Not from outside, but from within. By late afternoon, she'd cleaned herself up, borrowed a change of clothes from the innkeeper's daughter, and stepped out into Silverpine Hollow. The town was small, one long main street framed by mist and towering trees. A diner, a hardware store, and a few old cabins made up its quiet heart. Alara walked aimlessly, the weight of her pack pulling at her shoulder. She needed to find a mechanic, a job. Anything to keep her grounded. Normal. But when she crossed the road to the diner, she felt it again. That pull. A tingling at the base of her skull. Her pulse stuttered. She froze. Someone was watching her. Across the street, a man leaned against a black truck, half hidden by shadow. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark jeans and a leather jacket. He wasn't watching her exactly. He was tracking her, eyes following her every move, like he already knew what she'd do next. And his eyes, gods, his eyes, burned gold in the slant of the setting sun. For a second, the world tilted. Her stomach dropped. It couldn't be. She turned sharply into the diner before her thoughts could spiral. The bell above the door jingled. Warm light and the smell of coffee filled the space. She slid into a booth and tried to steady her breath. She wasn't imagining things. She couldn't be. The waitress poured her coffee with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're not from around here." "No," Alara admitted, fingers curling around the cup. "Just passing through." "Careful where you wander. The woods aren't safe for strangers." Alara looked up sharply. "Because of the wolves?" The waitress froze, then gave a brittle laugh. "Wolves, weather, men. Take your pick." Before Alara could reply, the bell above the door chimed again. The air shifted. The stranger from outside stepped in. He was taller than she thought, 6 foot something, with that quiet, dangerous kind of stillness that drew eyes without effort. His hair was dark, damp from the mist, his jaw shadowed. Every instinct screamed to leave, but her body wouldn't move. The waitress straightened, cautious. "Evening, Mr. Vale." Mr. Vale. The name fit him like a warning. "Evening," he said, his voice deep, gravel soft, threaded with command. His gaze swept the diner once, then landed on her. The world narrowed to that single look. Something inside her chest reacted, not just fear, something deeper, older. The mark beneath her skin pulsed once, in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. He crossed the room with the quiet grace of a predator, stopping beside her booth. "You're new here." Alara's throat went dry. "That obvious?" He smiled, slow, not kind. "You carry the forest on you. Its scent doesn't fade easily." She frowned, confused. I was stranded last night. The storm." "I know." His tone was too calm, too certain. "You crashed on the ridge road." She stiffened. "How do you know that?" His eyes darkened. "Because I found your car before sunrise." A pause. "You should be careful up there." Alara's pulse thundered. Were you following me? No. His lips curved slightly. I was hunting. Something cold slid through her veins. Hunting what? He leaned closer, voice dropping low. Not what. Who? Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she swore she saw the flash of something unnatural behind his eyes. A gleam like moonlight through amber. Then he straightened, composed again, the dangerous edge tucked neatly away. Enjoy your coffee, Miss. Alara? She said before she could stop herself. Alara. He said it like it meant something, like he'd known it before she'd spoken. I'm Kale. Her chest tightened. The name thrummed through her like a memory she shouldn't have. And before she could form another word, he was gone, walking out into the mist, leaving the door swinging behind him. The waitress appeared at her table, pale. You shouldn't talk to him. Why? Alara asked, still staring after him. The woman hesitated. Kale Vale runs the ridge. People around here say the wolves listen to him. Alara's stomach turned to ice. You mean I mean, the waitress whispered. He's not someone you want looking at you the way he just did. But Alara didn't hear the rest. Because outside, through the fogged window, she saw him pause beside his truck. He lifted his head, eyes glinting gold again in the fading light. And she felt it, the mark on her neck, burning faintly under her skin like a brand answering a call. Her breath hitched. The same word from last night echoed faintly in her mind. Unbidden. Impossible. Mine. Alara didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face. The gold of his eyes burning in the dark. The way his voice had wrapped around her name like a promise and a threat. Kale Vale. Even saying his name in her mind made her chest ache. The mark on her neck throbbed faintly, as if alive, warming and cooling with every heartbeat. She tried to ignore it. She wrapped a scarf around it. She told herself it was just nerves, just shock. But deep down, something whispered otherwise. She remembered that voice in the woods, mine, the way the shadows had seemed to listen. By morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She needed answers. The Silver Pine Library was small. One room, shelves older than the building, the scent of pine and old paper heavy in the air. Alara scanned through books about local history, folklore, anything that mentioned the woods. Silver Pine legends, she murmured, pulling out a dusty volume. Inside, faded ink and old myths. The blood moon pact. The curse of the ridge. The wolves who walked like men. Her stomach knotted as she read. The words blurred together. Tales of guardians cursed to protect their territory. Of soul bonds marked by blood and moonlight. Her fingers brushed a line that made her heart stutter. When a wolf claims his mate, her soul carries his mark. A bond that burns and binds until death, or until she commands his surrender. Her breath caught. She touched the faint shimmer under her scarf. Could that be what this was? No. That was impossible. She was human. She didn't believe in curses or blood pacts or fate. And yet, something deep in her bones whispered, "You already belong to something you don't understand." Looking for ghost stories? Alara flinched, turning sharply. Kale stood in the doorway. Dark jeans, black shirt, the same quiet intensity that made the air around him hum. He leaned casually against the frame, but there was nothing relaxed about his eyes. They caught her like a storm. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, closing the book. "Same as you." His gaze drifted to her scarf, lingering just a moment too long. Looking for answers. Her pulse spiked. "Do you follow me everywhere?" A faint smirk. "Only when I have to." "And why would you have to?" He didn't answer right away. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Because you shouldn't be here, Alara. The way he said her name again, low, rough, threaded with something almost pained, made her throat tighten. Why not? She whispered. He looked past her to the window, where the tree line loomed through the fog. You don't know what walks out there at night. What hunts. Her stomach twisted. You mean the wolves? His jaw flexed. Worse than wolves. Silence stretched between them. She could feel the air pulse faintly. That strange invisible thread that seemed to pull her closer, even as common sense screamed to run. Kale, she said softly. What happened last night? In the woods? His eyes flicked to hers, sharp. You remember. She hesitated. I remember eyes in the dark. I remember a sound. And something touched me. His shoulders went rigid. Did it hurt you? She swallowed hard. No. It just marked me. For a moment, his control cracked. His eyes flashed gold. Where? Her breath hitched. My neck. He exhaled slowly, closing the space between them before she could step back. His hand lifted, hesitating, then brushed the edge of her scarf, fingers grazing her skin. The mark burned to life under his touch, sending fire through her veins. She gasped. Kale froze, eyes locking on hers. You feel it. What is this? She whispered. What did you do to me? I didn't mean to, he said quietly, voice rough. You were dying. I lost control. Lost control? Her pulse thundered. What does that mean, Kale? He stepped back, the air between them sparking with tension. It means you shouldn't be near me. He turned toward the door, but she grabbed his arm. You can't just say that and walk away. His gaze snapped to hers, fierce, almost desperate. You don't understand what I am. Then tell me. He stared at her for a long moment, jaw tight, muscles coiled like a man fighting something inside. Then he said quietly, If I tell you the truth, you'll never look at me the same way again. Alara lifted her chin. Try me. For a heartbeat, he looked almost vulnerable, the storm in his eyes softening. Then he stepped back. Not here. His voice was final. If you want answers, meet me when the moon rises. By the time he left, her hands were trembling. She looked down at the old book again, at the faded words that seemed to burn through the page. A soul claimed by a shifter's mark will burn until balance is restored, either through union or through severance. The clock above the door ticked steadily toward dusk. And in her chest, that strange pulse beat harder, answering a call she couldn't deny. The forest was silver tonight. Mist curled through the trees like smoke, and the moon hung full and low, bathing the path in ghostly light. Alara's boots crunched against the damp leaves as she followed the winding trail beyond the ridge. Every instinct screamed, turn back. But the pull inside her, that invisible thread that hummed between her ribs, wouldn't let her. Kale's voice echoed from the shadows ahead. You came. She froze. He stepped from the trees, half lit by moonlight, his black shirt open at the collar, his presence commanding and quiet all at once. I said I would, she replied, forcing steadiness into her voice. He studied her for a long moment. Most people don't follow wolves into the woods at night. Maybe I'm not most people. That earned her a flicker of a smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. You shouldn't be here. You said you'd tell me the truth. He looked away toward the tree line. The truth isn't kind. I don't need kind, she said softly. I need real. They walked together until they reached a small clearing. A fallen tree lay across a stream, the water catching glints of silver. The air was heavy with pine and something darker, an undercurrent of energy that made her skin prickle. Kale stopped near the stream, shoulders tense. You want to know what I am? Yes. He hesitated. For the first time, she saw something fragile beneath the steel. Fear, not of her, but of what she might think. Then his gaze lifted to the moon. His voice was low when he spoke. "I'm what your stories warned you about." Alara's breath hitched. "A werewolf." He flinched at the word, as if it was a wound. "Not by choice." Silence settled between them, filled only by the whisper of wind and running water. She didn't move. "You marked me." His eyes darkened, glowing faintly gold. "Yes." "Why?" His jaw tightened. "You were bleeding out. The storm drove hunters into my territory. Armed, angry, tracking something they didn't understand. You crashed. I found you too late. You were cold, barely breathing. He broke off, voice rough. "My instincts took over." "Instincts," she repeated quietly. "Wolves protect their mates," he said, each word laced with regret. "Even when they shouldn't." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Mates? I'm human, Kale." "I know." His eyes softened, haunted. "That's why I tried to resist it. But fate doesn't ask what we want." She took a shaky step closer. "You think fate marked us?" "I don't think." He touched his chest lightly. "I feel it. Every time you breathe, every time you walk away, it pulls." Alara's throat tightened. "And if I want it gone?" He looked at her then, truly looked. And she saw it all. The loneliness etched in his face, the centuries of exile in his eyes. "Then I'll find a way to free you," he said quietly. "Even if it kills me." The words struck something deep in her, breaking through anger and confusion. "You'd die for me," she whispered. He gave a faint, hollow smile. "I've died before. This would just be easier." Alara's chest ached. She should have felt fear, pity, disbelief. But all she felt was the undeniable pull of something ancient between them. "Why do I feel you?" she asked. "Even when you're not near me?" He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "Because part of me lives in you now." The moment his skin brushed hers, warmth flooded her veins. The mark beneath her scarf blazed like sunlight. Her breath caught, not from pain, but from recognition. Kyle's eyes flickered with gold light again, but this time she didn't step back. "It's not supposed to be like this," he murmured, voice unsteady. "Humans and wolves don't share a bond. Not unless something interferes." "Like what?" His gaze lifted toward the forest beyond. "A curse. A bloodline vow. A broken pack oath. I've been searching for answers for years." She studied him, the way his shoulders carried invisible weight, the way he kept his distance even as everything in him seemed drawn to her. "Maybe the answer isn't what cursed you," she said softly. "Maybe it's what can heal you." Kale's breath caught, something like hope flickering across his features, quickly smothered. "You don't know what you're saying." "Then show me," she whispered. "Show me what you're afraid of." He stared at her for a long moment, the air between them electric. Then he stepped back, unbuttoning his sleeve, revealing the faint outline of claw marks across his forearm, glowing faintly under the moonlight. "When the moon calls," he said quietly, "I change. But lately, the wolf has changed too." "What do you mean?" He met her gaze, pain threading through his voice. "It doesn't hunt anymore. It searches. For you." Her pulse quickened. "Kale." He turned away sharply, jaw tight. "You should go, before it's too late." "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be." A low rumble vibrated in the air, not quite thunder. His muscles tensed, breath quickening. The glow in his eyes flared brighter, his body trembling as if fighting invisible chains. "Kale!" He stumbled back a step, gripping a tree trunk, veins darkening beneath his skin. "Go!" he snarled. But she didn't move. Instead, she grabbed his hands, pressed them against her heartbeat. "Then fight it," Don't let it win. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. The trembling stopped. The glow dimmed. He stared at her, breath ragged. And for the first time, she saw the man, not the monster. I don't know how to be near you without breaking something, he whispered. Then we'll break it together. The forest held its breath around them. Two souls bound by something older than blood, standing in the silver light of the moon. By dawn, the forest had turned from silver to steel. Alara woke in her rented room at the inn to the distant echo of howls. Not one, but many. The sound made her blood run cold. It wasn't human, and it wasn't Kale. She pressed a hand against her neck, feeling the faint warmth beneath her skin. The mark still pulsed, but now it carried something else. Warning. When she stepped outside, the whole town felt tense. Doors shut, curtains drawn, the air thick with silence. The innkeeper muttered something about territorial trouble up near the ridge and told her to stay inside. But Alara had never been good at listening. She headed toward the trail leading into the woods, drawn by that pull again. Not Kale's presence this time, but something wrong. Her instincts screamed danger, but curiosity drowned them out. Halfway up the ridge, she found claw marks carved deep into the trees. Fresh. Wide. Too wide. And then she saw the blood. Dark stains across the underbrush, leading toward the stream where she'd last met Kale. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Kale? She called softly. The forest didn't answer. A low growl rumbled behind her. She turned and froze. It wasn't Kale. The creature that emerged from the shadows was broader, leaner, its fur silver-shot and its eyes burning crimson. Not gold. Another wolf. It prowled toward her, teeth bared, the scent of metal and earth thick around it. Stay back, she whispered, stepping away slowly. I'm not. It lunged. Alara stumbled, hitting the ground hard, throwing up her arms. But before its claws touched her, a blur of motion tore through the clearing. Kale. He slammed into the other wolf mid-air, the force of impact shaking the ground. The sound of snapping jaws and snarls filled the air. Kale! She cried, scrambling to her feet. The two wolves crashed into the stream, teeth and fury and silver flashes of light. The crimson-eyed one bit deep into Kale's shoulder. He roared in pain, shoving it back. Run! He growled, voice still rough, still human somewhere inside the sound. I'm not leaving you! Alara, go! But she couldn't. She grabbed a fallen branch, swung it at the other wolf as it lunged again. It barely slowed the beast, but it was enough for Kale to regain his footing. He surged forward, slamming the rival into a rock, pinning it down with impossible strength. The forest went still. For a heartbeat, only their ragged breathing filled the clearing. Then the rival wolf snarled something guttural, almost intelligible. Words formed from a broken growl. She's a curse, Kyle. You've doomed us all. Alara's breath caught. It can speak. Kale's jaws tightened, and the wolf fell silent, limp beneath him. Slowly, painfully, Kale shifted back, fur fading, bones reshaping, skin returning under moonlight's ghostly hue. He knelt by the stream, shirt torn, blood dripping down his arm. Alara rushed to his side. You're hurt. It's nothing, he rasped. That thing, what did it mean? He didn't answer. His eyes, still glowing faintly, met hers. They know about you now. Who? My pack. Her stomach dropped. You said you were alone. I was. He looked away. Until I broke their laws. You mean, marking me? He nodded once. To them, you're a human bound to a wolf. A sign the curse is spreading. They'll see you as a threat. Alara's chest tightened. Then we'll make them see I'm not. He gave a bitter laugh, pain flashing across his face. You don't understand. In our world, power is everything. They won't listen to words. They'll listen to dominance. Then we fight back. That made him look at her. Really look. You'd stand against my kind? I'd stand for the truth, she said firmly. You saved me. Whatever this bond is, I won't let them use it to destroy you. Something in him shifted at that. A spark of disbelief, quickly swallowed by something warmer. Alara. His voice broke slightly, the alpha edge fading into something almost vulnerable. You have no idea what they'll do. Then teach me how to survive them. He exhaled slowly, torn between duty and something deeper. Finally, he nodded. If we do this, we do it together. But once the moon rises again, they'll come for us. Then we'll be ready. The mark on her neck glowed faintly again, and for a heartbeat, she felt his pain as if it were her own. The bite on his shoulder, the exhaustion in his bones. She reached out, touching the wound. Her fingers brushed his skin, and to both their shock, the bleeding slowed. The mark pulsed once, golden light flickering beneath her palm. Kale's breath caught. What did you just do? I don't know, she whispered. The glow faded. Silence fell again. Kale stared at her with a mixture of awe and fear. Alara, the bond's changing. Changing how? He shook his head slowly, eyes dark with worry. You're not just marked anymore. You're becoming part of the curse. The cabin was silent except for the low hum of the storm pressing against the windows. Alara stood near the hearth, her pulse loud in her ears, every breath a trembling demand for answers. Kyle sat across from her, his hands pressed together, jaw clenched, eyes shadowed by something heavier than guilt. I want the truth, she said, her voice shaking but strong. No more half answers, no more excuses. What did you do to me that night? Kyle's gaze lifted, silver irises, glinting like moonlight on steel. The mark on her collarbone still burned faintly, pulsing in sync with the rhythm of his heartbeat, even though she stood several feet away. That connection alone terrified her. He exhaled slowly. You weren't supposed to survive it. The words hit like a slap. What? His throat worked as if every confession clawed its way out. When a wolf marks a human, it's irreversible. The bond is meant for mates, fated ones. If it happens by force, the human's body rejects it. It tears their soul apart. He swallowed, the weight of his admission sinking the air around them. I thought you would die, Alara. I thought I'd destroyed you. She stared at him, the walls of the cabin tilting, heat flooding her veins. Then why did you? Because you were dying already. He interrupted hoarsely. My pack's enemy had poisoned the lake. You'd swallowed the same water when you pulled me out. I felt it. The sickness in your blood. There was no time for anything else. I marked you to heal you. It was the only way. Alara's breath caught. Memories flashed. His body half shifted, her hands pressing over a bleeding wound, the sudden surge of warmth that had jolted through her before darkness took her under. She'd woken alive. Changed. So I was never meant to be your mate, she whispered, the words trembling in the air. Kale's head snapped up, anguish raw in his eyes. You don't understand. I never chose this, but the bond. He pressed a hand to his chest, over his heart. It chose you. The moon doesn't make mistakes, Alara. You were meant to live. And now, his voice cracked. Now you're bound to me. Bound. The word struck something deep and furious inside her. You took my choices away, she said, stepping back, the mark flaring under her skin. You decided my fate for me. I saved your life, Kyle roared, the sound carrying something not quite human, a rumble that made the cabin tremble. Then softer, almost pleading. Do you think I wanted this? I'm cursed, Alara. My bloodline was bound by an ancient vow. Any human I mark is tied to my death. If I die, you die too. Her heartbeat stuttered. That's impossible. He rose, towering over her, the stormlight catching the scar that ran down his shoulder, the same place she'd seen glowing in his wolf form. Look at your mark. Feel it. Reluctantly, she brushed her fingers across the faint crescent on her skin, and a surge of energy rippled through her. It wasn't just pain or power. It was him. His emotions flickered at the edge of her mind. Regret, protectiveness, something deeper, like a heartbeat that wasn't her own. She gasped. What is this? The soul bond, Kale said quietly. You can feel me because your body recognizes me as your mate, even if your heart refuses to. Her knees nearly gave way. You said, humans die when... They do, he said, unless they're meant to be one of us. The fire popped between them, throwing embers into the air like stars. His next words came in a low, reverent whisper. You're changing, Alara. Silence stretched. She stared at her trembling hands, the faint shimmer beneath her skin, the way her senses had sharpened since that night. Every heartbeat in the woods, every shift of air, she'd begun to notice it, to feel it. No, she whispered, backing away. No, I'm not. You are, Cal said. His voice carried sorrow and awe. The moon has chosen you. The mark didn't curse you. It awakened what was already there. She shook her head. You're lying. I'm human. Cal took a step forward, pain etched across his face. Humans don't survive a wolf's mark. Not unless there's wolf blood hidden in their lineage. The world tilted again. My mother, she began, remembering vague stories. How her mother avoided the forest. How she'd warned Alara never to touch the lake on a full moon. The memories clicked into place with terrifying clarity. Your mother knew, Kale said gently. She ran from this life. From us. Alara sank into the nearest chair, breath trembling. So, what does that make me? Kyle hesitated, then knelt before her, his hand trembling as he reached for hers. But he didn't touch her. It makes you part of something ancient, he said. Something the moon doesn't forgive easily. You're not just human, Alara. You're a half-blood. And my mark completed the bond that your mother tried to bury. Her chest constricted. You ruined everything. I gave you life, he whispered back. Lightning split the sky, casting his face in light and shadow. His eyes burned silver, a wolf's eyes, and yet vulnerable. Alara felt the storm between them shift. Rage battled with pity, with the haunting echo of his heartbeat thrumming inside her chest. Then why hide it? She demanded. Why make me feel insane for days instead of telling me the truth? He stood, pacing the room like a caged animal. Because once you knew, there'd be no turning back. The council would sense the bond. They'd come for you. The council? The pack that governs our kind, Kyle said bitterly. They don't allow mixed bloodlines. They'll see you as a mistake that must be erased, and me as the alpha who defied them. Alara's stomach dropped. So that's why you wanted me gone? Yes, Kyle said, meeting her gaze with brutal honesty. I tried to stay away to keep you safe, but the bond... He pressed his fist to his chest, gasping slightly. It's killing me to stay apart. And if they find us before the next full moon... What happens? She whispered. They'll destroy the bond. And us with it. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The storm quieted, as though the world itself was listening. Finally, Alara stood, her expression unreadable. You said your curse ties my life to yours. Kale nodded, wary. Then maybe it's time you learn something, Alpha, she said, stepping closer, eyes flashing with newfound strength. You marked me without consent. You gave me your bond. But whatever this is, this power, this fate, I'm not your victim. I'm part of it now. Kale's breath caught. Alara brushed past him, the air around her crackling faintly, the mark glowing faintly on her skin like molten silver. You said I'm changing? Good. Her voice was low, fierce. Because when they come for me, they'll learn I'm not the one who needs saving. The door slammed behind her as she stepped out into the rain, leaving Kale standing in stunned silence. And for the first time in centuries, the Alpha felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Fear. Not for her, but of her. The moon shifted behind the clouds, and Kale whispered into the empty cabin. She's the Luna the prophecy spoke of. Dawn crept slowly across the forest, pale light filtering through mist and shattered clouds. The storm had passed, but its echo clung to the air like grief. Kyle stood on the ridge above the valley, his breath fogging in the cold morning wind, eyes locked on the cabin below. The last place he'd seen her. Alara. He could still feel her heartbeat through the bond, faint but steady, defiant even in sleep. It should have comforted him. Instead, it tore at him, a reminder that the curse binding them worked both ways. The council would come. They always did. And when they found her, a marked half-blood tied to a cursed Alpha, they wouldn't show mercy. He closed his eyes, the ancient words of his father echoing in his head. An Alpha's heart belongs to his pack, not his weakness. But Alara was more than weakness. She was the one thing that made him remember he was still human somewhere beneath the wolf. And that made her dangerous. Down below, Alara stirred. She hadn't slept much, not since the truth had shattered everything she thought she knew. Her reflection in the cracked mirror looked both familiar and foreign, the faint silver hue in her eyes, the way her pulse beat too fast, too strong. Her mother's words whispered from memory, warnings she'd once ignored. Now she understood. Her fingers grazed the mark on her collarbone. It didn't hurt anymore. It thrummed. Alive. It was her curse and her power, all at once. And she could feel him. Not just his heartbeat, but his intent. The heavy final weight of a decision made before dawn. Her chest tightened. "Kyle," she whispered. Without another thought, she grabbed her coat and ran into the trees. She found him where the earth met sky, at the cliff's edge, wind tearing through his dark hair, silver eyes fixed on Asitasazo, the horizon. "You shouldn't be here," he said without turning. "And you shouldn't be planning to die," she shot back. That made him look at her. His face was calm. Too calm. The look of a man who had already chosen his fate. "I'm not planning to die," he said softly. "I'm planning to save you." "By doing what?" She stepped closer, her breath fogging in the space between them. "Running into the council's hands? Letting them tear you apart while I just... What? Hide?" His jaw tightened. "If they destroy me, the curse dies with me. You'll be free." Her stomach twisted. "You think I want to be free of you?" Kale flinched. For a moment, his eyes flickered. Wolf silver, then human blue. "You should. I marked you without consent. I bound your soul to mine. You have every reason to hate me." "I did," she admitted, voice trembling. "But now I just hate what this world has turned you into." He took a slow step toward her, pain flickering through his features. "You don't understand what's coming. The council can sense the bond. They'll kill anyone who carries wolf blood outside their control. You'll be their target, Alara. I won't let that happen." Her anger broke. "You think I'm that fragile? I think you're the only thing I can't lose." The words hit her harder than she expected. For a second, she forgot to breathe. Then she whispered, You're not saving me, Kyle. You're running from me. He shook his head. If I stay, I'll doom you. And if you leave, she said fiercely, you'll doom us both. The mark flared between them, bright and aching, a pulse of shared pain. She saw it in his eyes too, the agony of separation already clawing at the bond. He gritted his teeth, resisting the pull. You're strong enough now to break it. No, she said, shaking her head. You don't get to decide that again. Not for me. His control slipped, the wolf flickering beneath the surface. Alara, you don't understand what this bond does to me. Then tell me, she demanded. Kyle hesitated, then his voice dropped to a ragged whisper. It's killing me not to be near you. Every time I pull away, it tears something out of me. The curse was meant to keep me alone. The moon made sure I'd never have a mate I could love without pain. Her eyes widened. So that's your sacrifice? To die for a curse that wasn't even your fault? Yes. She stepped closer until the air between them buzzed. Then hear mine. Before he could react, she reached out and pressed her palm against his chest, right over his heart. The mark between them ignited like liquid fire. He gasped, his knees almost buckling. What are you doing? He rasped. Sharing it. Her voice was fierce, unwavering. If you think you can carry this curse alone, you're wrong. You marked me, Kyle. You made me part of your world. Now you live with it. With me. The bond flared again, brighter this time, twisting the air with raw energy. For a second, Kale's vision blurred. Flashes of her memories flooding through him. Her laughter. Her fear. Her loneliness. Alara. You don't get to decide my fate, she said. Not anymore. A sound broke from him, somewhere between a growl and a sob. His hand rose, trembling, and brushed against her cheek. Do you know what you're doing? Yes, she whispered. I'm taking back control. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Then the bond settled, softer, steadier, a rhythm that belonged to them both now. Kale looked down at her, eyes wide with disbelief. You changed it. She smiled faintly through her tears. Guess that makes us even. But the moment was fragile. Behind them, the forest trembled, the faint, distant echo of a horn. Kale's expression turned to dread. They're here. The council. He turned to face the sound, his body already shifting, silver claws forming, eyes burning bright. Run, he said. Alara grabbed his wrist. I'm not leaving you. He looked back, the wolf and the man warring in his gaze. If I fall, they'll kill you next. Please. No, she said fiercely. Not this time. You sacrificed enough. Now we fight together. For a long second, he just stared at her. The half-blood woman who defied him, defied fate, defied the curse itself. Then he nodded once, a flicker of something almost like pride softening his expression. Then may the moon have mercy on them. As the first howl split the dawn, Kale shifted fully, his wolf form immense and radiant with silver light. Alara stood beside him, her hand glowing with the mark's power, her heartbeat matching his. The storm had ended, but a war was beginning. And this time, she wasn't the one being hunted. The forest had never been this quiet. Even the wind held its breath as Lila stumbled through the pines, blood streaking her arm where the rogue's claws had grazed her. The moon hung low, too bright, too heavy. She knew what that meant. Somewhere out there, Kale was shifting. And if he was, it meant the bond between them had snapped open again, raw and unrestrained. She could feel him. Every heartbeat. Every ragged inhale that wasn't hers. Lila. His voice wasn't spoken. It echoed inside her chest, a pulse that wasn't sound but something deeper. Stop running. You're bleeding. She froze. The voice trembled with worry, not command. It wasn't the Alpha speaking now. It was the man. The one who'd marked her without asking. The one she had sworn she'd never forgive. "Go away," she whispered, leaning against a tree. Her legs shook, not from pain, but from something far worse. Memories. The mark on her shoulder throbbed like fire. She'd spent weeks learning to silence it, to numb herself to the connection that linked her to him. But now, every nerve screamed his name. The forest shifted around her. A rustle. Then, Cale stepped out of the shadows, his shirt torn, chest rising and falling like he'd been running for miles. His eyes glowed faintly gold under the moonlight. The beast beneath his skin wasn't gone. But he wasn't fighting her anymore. He was fighting for her. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but her voice broke halfway. He stopped several feet away, gaze locked on her face. "You think I could stay away when you were being hunted?" Lila tried to laugh, but it came out as a bitter choke. "You made me your claim, Cale. You made me a target." His expression twisted. Pain, guilt, something darker. "I know. I thought the mark would keep you safe. I didn't know it would destroy you." For the first time, she saw it. Real regret. Not the cold, stoic Alpha who hid behind duty. The man beneath it. She whispered, "You took my choice." He nodded once. "And I'll spend the rest of my life giving it back." Something in her chest cracked open at those words. The bond pulsed again. Warmer this time. Not a chain. A heartbeat. "Why now?" she asked softly. "Why come after me now, when you let me go?" Kyle stepped closer, so slow it hurt to watch. "Because I realized letting you go wasn't strength. It was cowardice. And because..." His eyes flicked to her shoulder where his mark burned faintly. "Because even when I tried to sever the bond, it didn't break. It chose you. It chose us." Her throat tightened. "There's no us, Cale. Not after what you did." "I know," he murmured. "But there can be forgiveness." The moonlight spilled between them like a river of silver. Lila's hand trembled as she pressed it to her wound. Kyle reached out, not touching, just hovering near her arm. "Let me help." She flinched. "Don't." But then the forest roared. A cry from the east, guttural and close. Another rogue. Cale's head snapped toward the sound, the Alpha in him rising instantly. He growled low in his throat, the sound primal, dangerous. Lila's fear spiked, but not of him, of losing him. Cale turned back, voice rough. "Stay behind me." "I'm not your subordinate," she said. "No," he replied. "You're my equal." That stopped her cold. He shifted halfway, claws glinting as he blocked the rogue's approach. The fight was brutal, short, but fierce. Cale moved like lightning, protecting her with feral precision. When it was over, he stood panting, blood streaking his face, but none of it his. Lila approached slowly, hand reaching out. "You could have died." He turned, eyes soft now. "Better me than you." Her heart cracked. She didn't know when her anger had turned into fear, when her hatred had turned into ache. But standing there, watching him bleed for her, she knew this moment had changed everything. She stepped closer, then closer still, until her fingers brushed the mark on his chest, where the mate bond thrummed beneath his skin. "Cale," she whispered, "if you ever try to take my choices again, I will burn your whole pack to the ground." A low, breathless laugh escaped him. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you." And then she did what neither of them expected. She pressed her forehead to his, closing her eyes. For the first time, she leaned into the bond, not as his mark, not as his possession, but as her own decision. The mark flared between them, golden and alive. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. "If we're doing this, Cale, it's on my terms. My rules. He smiled, small and broken but real. Then I'll follow your lead, Omega. She blinked, startled. Omega? His thumb brushed her jaw. That's what the bond calls you now, the one who tames the alpha. The forest went still again, only this time it wasn't empty. It was alive. And for the first time since the night he'd marked her, Lila didn't feel trapped. She felt powerful. The cabin smelled of pine smoke and rain. Kale had started a fire while Lila cleaned her wound at the small wash basin. Neither of them spoke much. Only the sound of crackling logs filled the silence. But beneath it, something electric hummed between them. The bond. It pulsed like a heartbeat, not demanding this time, but asking. Lila caught him watching her from across the room, his shoulders tense, eyes glowing faintly gold even in human form. He wasn't used to waiting, not used to her having the power now. You can stop glaring, she said, not turning around. I'm not going to run again. Kale's voice came low, almost a growl, but softer. I wasn't glaring. I was making sure you're all right. She smirked faintly. You mean checking if I'm still breathing? I've had too many nights thinking I lost you, he admitted. Forgive me if I can't look away. The words struck deep. Not because they were sweet, but because they sounded true. When she finally turned, the firelight painted his face in gold and shadow. The alpha mask was gone. He looked human, exhausted, and utterly hers, if she wanted him. Lila crossed her arms. You said the bond chose me, but that doesn't mean it controls me. He nodded slowly. I know. You don't owe me anything. Good, she said, but her voice wavered. Kale tilted his head slightly, sensing the tremor in her tone. Then tell me to leave, and I will. The challenge hung in the air. All she had to do was say the word. But she couldn't. Because the truth was, somewhere between hate and heartbreak, something inside her had started to heal. She walked toward him, one step at a time. You don't make things easy, do you? A corner of his mouth lifted. Never learned how. Typical alpha, she muttered. Typical omega, he replied, eyes darkening. Her pulse skipped. You keep calling me that. You make it sound like something sacred. Kyle's gaze softened. Because it is. You're not my subordinate. You're the balance I never had. The part of me that keeps the beast from losing control. Lila's breath caught. So what happens now? He stepped forward, close enough that she could feel his heat, but not touching her. Now, I stop trying to claim you, and start trying to deserve you. For a heartbeat, she couldn't breathe. The man who once took her choice was now offering himself, unguarded, to her judgment. She searched his face. And if I say no? Kale's throat bobbed. Then I'll still protect you. Always. That broke something deep inside her. Not the pain this time. Something older, quieter. The loneliness that had been gnawing at her since before she met him. Without thinking, she reached up and touched the mark on his chest. It burned faintly, echoing hers. The bond flared to life, not violent or invasive, but gentle. A whisper of connection, like a heartbeat brushing against her soul. Lila inhaled shakily. It doesn't hurt anymore. Kale's breath hitched. It's not supposed to. It was never meant to be a chain. She looked up at him, eyes bright in the firelight. Then what was it meant to be? He hesitated, then murmured, a promise. Their gazes locked. For once, the pull between them didn't feel like fate forcing them together. It felt like forgiveness. And when she rose onto her toes and kissed him, it wasn't surrender. It was choice. Kyle went still for half a second, as if he didn't dare move. Then his hands rose, one resting on her jaw, the other against her back. Careful. Reverent. His lips met hers with the restraint of a man who'd waited lifetimes for permission. The fire cracked louder. The bond between them flared gold, light swirling across their skin like glowing veins. But it didn't burn. It warmed. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Kale whispered against her lips, "Say the word, and I'll follow you anywhere." She smiled faintly. "Even if it means leaving your pack?" His expression turned fierce, tender. "You are my pack." The words settled deep in her chest, anchoring her in a way nothing ever had. Outside, the wind shifted, the scent of pine and rain replaced by something sharper, unfamiliar. Lila frowned, stepping back. "We're not alone." Kyle's eyes flicked to the window, jaw tightening. "Rogues?" "No," she said quietly. "Something older." The fire dimmed for a moment, shadows stretching across the walls. The mark on her shoulder throbbed once. Hard. Kale reached for her hand. "The bond's warning us." Lila looked at him, her heart pounding. "Then we face it together." And for the first time, Kale didn't lead. He followed her out into the night. The forest was unnaturally still. No wind, no crickets, not even the whisper of rain. It felt like the world was holding its breath. Lila and Kale stepped from the cabin's light into that heavy silence, the fire behind them casting long shadows through the trees. Her mark pulsed under her skin, a golden heartbeat she couldn't ignore. Kyle's hand brushed against hers, his warmth grounding her, even as the air grew colder. Then came the whisper. Soft at first, like dry leaves rustling. Then louder, a voice that wasn't a voice, ancient and angry. "You've broken the order." Kale's chest rose sharply. "The moonbound curse." Before Lila could speak, the ground split with a low rumble. From the darkness, shapes emerged, wolf-like, but twisted half shadow and half bone, their eyes glowing white. There were 6 of them, maybe more. Lila swallowed hard. "Those aren't rogues." Kyle's canines elongated, his golden eyes flashing. "No, they're the spirits of the first bond." The ancient ones, those who created the mark that tied alphas and omegas together. They had once been gods of order. Now they were wrath. The tallest spirit stepped forward. It spoke in 2 voices at once. One male, one female. "You took what was never yours to take, Alpha. You marked a mortal without the moon's blessing." Lila's heart hammered. He made a mistake, but he's trying to fix it. The spirits' heads turned toward her in eerie unison. "And you, human, carry the power not meant for your kind. The mark lives in you. It must be reclaimed." Kale moved in front of her instinctively, his growl rolling through the clearing. "Over my dead body." The spirit smiled. "That can be arranged." The forest erupted. Wolves of shadow lunged forward, their claws slashing at air and light. Kale shifted mid-leap, his body tearing into the massive black wolf she'd first met, the one who had once terrified her. But this time, she didn't run. She joined him. She reached inside where the mark throbbed like a living flame, and let it burn through her veins. Her eyes glowed gold. The magic that had once enslaved her now obeyed her. Every time a spirit lunged, she raised her hand and light shot outward, solid and radiant, forming a shield around them. Kale fought beside her, fangs bared, his power echoing hers. They moved as one, instinctive, unstoppable. But the ancient alpha spirit was stronger. It caught Kyle mid-charge, slamming him into a tree so hard the bark splintered. He hit the ground, shifting back to human form, blood dripping down his shoulder. "Kale!" she screamed, reaching for him. "Lila!" he gasped. Don't let them touch the mark." The spirit turned its pale eyes on her. "Surrender it, and live. Defy us. and you both perish." Lila's throat tightened. She could feel Kale's pain through the bond, sharp and raw. He looked up at her, voice hoarse. "Don't give it to them. I'd rather die than lose what we have." And that's when she understood. This wasn't about punishment. It was a test. The bond had always been meant to evolve. If they could break free of control and still choose each other, they would transcend the curse. She took a trembling step forward, facing the ancient spirit head-on. "You said this bond was forged by the moon. Then hear me now. If the moon made it, the moon can change it." The spirits hissed. "You are not of our blood." Lila raised her glowing hand, her mark blazing brighter than ever. "No, but I am of your legacy." The light spread, first around her, then around Kale, linking them in a golden thread that pulsed with 2 heartbeats instead of 1. The ground shook. The spirits recoiled, their forms flickering. Kyle forced himself to stand, his hand finding hers. "Together," he said through gritted teeth. "Always," she whispered. They lifted their joined hands, and the light exploded outward, shattering the shadow beasts like glass, dissolving them into dust. The ancient alpha screamed, its voice cracking like thunder. "The bond cannot be rewritten!" Lila's voice rang out, fierce and clear. "Then it can burn and be reborn." The forest erupted in blinding light. When the silence returned, the spirits were gone. The mark on her shoulder still glowed faintly, but it no longer burned. Instead, it felt like warmth after winter, like breath after drowning. Kale stood before her, shirt torn, eyes wide in disbelief. "Lila, what did you do?" She looked down at their linked hands. The light between them shimmered once, then settled. "I didn't break the bond. I remade it." He stepped closer, his hand trembling as he brushed her cheek. "You did what no alpha ever could." She smiled faintly. "Maybe because I was never supposed to be the one controlled by it." Kale's breath caught. Then he laughed, soft and broken, like he didn't know how else to process it. "You really are my undoing. Or your beginning," she said. He drew her against him, forehead to forehead, their marks glowing faintly in sync. The night sky above them cleared, revealing the full moon breaking through the clouds, silver light bathing the forest. For the first time in centuries, the mark of the Alpha and Omega pulsed not with control, but with choice. The forest was quiet again, this time truly quiet. No whispers of curses, no ghostly howls, just the low hum of the earth breathing after the storm. Lila stood in the middle of the clearing, the moonlight dripping over her like silver silk. Kyle's arms were still wrapped around her, his heartbeat steady against her back. For the first time, she felt peace. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of freedom. The mark on her shoulder shimmered softly before fading into faint golden threads beneath her skin. She could still feel its warmth, but it no longer pulsed with pain or possession. Kyle exhaled slowly, his forehead pressed to hers. "It's over." She nodded. "No, it's different." He smiled faintly, his voice husky. "You always did see beyond endings." Lila pulled back enough to look at him properly. His face was battered, dirt streaking his jaw, blood drying at his temple. But his eyes were alive. The feral gold had softened, and the man beneath the alpha looked at her with something that wasn't dominance. It was awe. She brushed her fingers over his chest where his mark had been. It was gone now, just skin, warm under her touch. "You're free," she murmured. Kale's hand covered hers. "We're free." The words sank into her bones like a promise. They started walking back toward the cabin through the quiet woods. The world around them felt reborn. The air cleaner, the moon brighter. It was as if the land itself had been waiting for the curse to lift. When they reached the edge of the tree line, Lila stopped. The smell of pine smoke drifted from the cabin chimney. "Do you think they'll come for us?" she asked softly. Kyle followed her gaze. "The council? Or your pack?" she said. "They'll know something's changed." He turned toward her, his expression unreadable for a moment. "They'll feel it. The bond that held every shifter in line. It's shifting. The old ways are breaking. There will be fear." She frowned. "And you?" "I'm done being afraid of them," he said simply. "If the council wants me gone, they can have the title. Alpha means nothing if it costs my soul." Lila smiled, a mix of pride and sorrow tugging at her lips. "You'd give it all up?" He looked at her with quiet intensity. "For you, I already did." The silence between them stretched, not heavy, but full of things they didn't have to say. They reached the cabin, the door still half open from when they'd run out. Inside, the fire had burned low, embers glowing faintly. Lila walked in first, sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling just slightly as the adrenaline faded. Cale joined her, sitting close enough for their shoulders to brush. "You should rest," he murmured. She let out a soft laugh. "After all that, I'm not sure I even know how." His lips curved. "Then I'll stay awake with you." She turned her head, meeting his gaze. "You don't have to keep protecting me anymore, Cale." He studied her face for a long moment before replying quietly, "I know. But I want to." Something tender unspooled in her chest. For so long, every touch, every look between them had been tangled in power and fear. Now it was just them. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "You know, I hated you at first." He chuckled softly. "I'd have been disappointed if you didn't. I thought you were just another monster trying to control me." He tilted his head slightly toward her. "And now?" She smiled against his shoulder. "Now I think you're a monster who's learning how to love." He laughed quietly, his hand brushing through her hair. "That sounds about right." For a long time, they just sat there, breathing in rhythm with the fire. Outside, the forest began to stir again, the sounds of life returning, of night creatures singing to the moon. Lila broke the silence first. "What happens to us now?" Cale's gaze turned distant. "We rebuild. My pack will need to understand that the old bonds are gone. They'll fear what we've done, but they'll also feel the release. Some will resist it. Others will follow." "And you?" she asked softly. "I'll walk with you," he said simply. "Wherever this new world takes us." Lila's throat tightened. "You mean that?" He turned to her, his expression open, vulnerable. "I've lived a century under duty, under instinct. But you..." His hand came to her cheek, thumb tracing the faint gold shimmer beneath her skin. "You taught me what choice feels like." Her eyes glistened. "And you taught me what trust looks like." For the first time, there was no mark burning between them, no curse pressing them together. Only two souls that had been torn apart and found their way back. Kyle shifted closer, resting his forehead against hers again. "When I marked you that night, I thought I was claiming my destiny." "And now?" she whispered. He smiled softly. "Now I know destiny doesn't belong to the Alpha. It belongs to the one brave enough to rewrite it." Lila closed her eyes, tears catching on her lashes. "Then we rewrite it together." He nodded, his voice a whisper. "Together." Outside, the moon began to wane, its silver light dimming toward dawn. For the first time since she arrived in this world, Lila felt no fear of the sunrise. Whatever came next, pack politics, the council's wrath, even the unknown magic she still carried, she would face it her way. And this time, she wouldn't be running. Kyle pressed a kiss to her temple, his voice low and steady. "You're not mine to protect anymore, Lila." She looked up at him, smiling through the tears. "No, but I'll still protect you." The fire popped softly, a single ember rising like a tiny star. Outside, the forest sighed. The curse was gone. The future was unwritten,